You are now listening to the Infinite Moment Podcast.
Welcome to episode 6 of the Infinite Moment Podcast. In this podcast, I attempt to address the causes of and solutions to our everyday stress. I rely on articles and studies to gain understanding on how stress affects every one of us and what our best options are for reducing it. Together, we learn and are encouraged to implement the solutions that are revealed as we continue to broaden our understanding of stress. This podcast is powered by DissolveStress.com, so check that out for all your stress relief needs. Today we will be discussing how to identify and manage stressors. Just want to bring up that as a prerequisite to this episode, you may want to check out episode 3, where we talk about the development of the stress response. But this is going to go a little bit more into depth on common stressors and ways to deal with them. With that being said, we're going to take a look at a couple different articles today regarding stressors and the ways of managing them. I also would like to mention that this is just a brief kind of introduction into stressors and stress management. Obviously can't cover all the stressors, but we're going to try and hit some of the more common ones and some proven effective ways of dealing with those. So let's start with our first article of the day. So our first article is from Harvard Health Publishing, Harvard Medical School, and it's titled Best Ways to Manage Stress. Stressful experiences come in many forms, such as a demanding job, a chronic disease, or an argument with a loved one. But all types of stressors, even stress from positive experiences, such as planning a party, can result in the same physical and emotional burden on health, especially when you're an older adult. As we age, our immune systems are less efficient, and adding stress to that can lead to disease progression or the onset of disease, says Dr. Ann Webster, a health psychologist at the Benson Henry Institute for Mind-Body Medicine at Harvard-affiliated Massachusetts General Hospital. Stressful situations trigger a physical reaction known as the stress response. This is what we discussed in episode 3, development of the stress response. It continues. The brain relays warnings to the muscles, which tighten, and to the adrenal glands, which release stress hormones such as adrenaline and cortisol. These hormones help your body prepare to fight or flee to safety. Your heart pounds, blood pressure rises, and more of your blood is sent to your brain and muscles. Your breath quickens to get more oxygen into your blood, and your body releases sugars and fats into the blood for energy. In the short term, the stress response can help you navigate a difficult situation, but chronic stress can lead to physical damage. Stress increases blood sugar and can make diabetes worse. It can create high blood pressure and cause insomnia. It can also make people anxious, worried, depressed, or frustrated, says Dr. Webster. Chronic stress also increases the risk of heart disease, heartburn, and many other health problems. So that's somewhat of a recap of the development of the stress response. Again, our stress response system within our body exists to help us in a situation where we may need to fight or flee. But when we remain in that high stress response situation, then our body will become out of balance and could have some damaging effects. Alright, so here, recognizing stress. Symptoms of stress can take many forms. Stress may cause physical complaints such as tension, headaches, back pain, indigestion, or heart palpitations. It may appear as cognitive problems such as poor concentration and indecisiveness. Emotional symptoms of stress include crying, irritability, and edginess. And stress can also show up as negative behaviors. Driving a car too fast, overeating, or smoking can all be behavioral symptoms of stress. The first step toward reducing stress is learning what your triggers are. If you know what pushes your buttons, then avoid it. But there are stressors we have to accept, so we must change our reactions to them, explains Dr. Webster. She offers the following ways to reduce or manage stress. Relaxation techniques. These are activities that trigger the relaxation response, a physiological change that can help lower your blood pressure, heart rate, breathing rate, oxygen consumption, and stress hormones. You can achieve this with activities such as meditation, guided imagery, yoga, and deep breathing exercises. By the way, you can check out episode 1 of the Infinite Moment podcast for tips on deep breath exercises. Next, cognitive behavioral therapy, also known as CBT. CBT is based on the idea that changing unhealthy thinking can change your emotions. A CBT therapist will help you identify negative thinking and learn to automatically replace it with healthy or positive thoughts. So that has to do with mindfulness, being in the present moment, being in control of your thoughts. Goal setting. When people set goals for themselves, they have a positive sense of commitment. They feel they're in control and are optimistic, says Dr. Webster. She recommends setting goals in your career, relationship, creativity, play, and health. So that article from Harvard gives us some brief insights into the importance of stressors, how to identify them, and a few tips on how to manage them. So many things in our everyday environments that can cause stress, whether it's eustress or distress, which is good stress or bad stress. These stressors will have a physical response within our bodies, especially if it becomes chronic stress that lingers in our body for a long amount of time. So the goal is to be able to identify them and then effectively manage them properly. It's harder to avoid stressors than it is to properly try and manage them. Once you learn the tips and try them out and see which ones work for you, then you can more effectively deal with stress rather than being overwhelmed by it. So that's our goal today, is to learn how to properly identify stressors and then also learn how to then manage those stressors. So it may be a good idea. As an exercise, I recommend writing down 20 things that cause the most stress in your life. And then near each of those 20, give 2 possible solutions for how you would manage that. Okay, but we're going to move on to our next article and keep learning about ways to manage stress and stressors. This next article is titled How to Identify and Manage Your Emotional Triggers. And this is by Crystal Raypole. Emotional triggers are associated with post-traumatic stress disorder, also known as PTSD. Knowing what your emotional triggers are and how to deal with them is a key component of good emotional health. So here's ways to identify yours. Just about everyone has some emotional triggers, though these might look a little different from person to person. They might include reminders of unwanted memories, uncomfortable topics, another person's words or actions, even your own behaviors. Common situations that trigger intense emotions include rejection, betrayal, unjust treatment, challenged beliefs, helplessness or loss of control, being excluded or ignored, feeling unwanted or unneeded, feeling smothered or too needed, insecurity, loss of independence. A key step in learning to recognize your triggers involves paying attention when situations generate a strong emotional response. Beyond surging emotions, you might also experience some physical symptoms of anxiety, like pounding heart, upset stomach, shakiness or dizziness, and sweaty palms. Not only do these triggers have an emotional response within us, but oftentimes it will also have a physical response within us as well. It can affect our heart rate, our digestive processes, our nervous system, and even our sweat glands. Continuing on. When strong emotions come up, don't try to ignore them or fight them back. Instead, approach them with curiosity to get more insight on what may have triggered them. Once you've identified your emotional triggers, you might think, well, that's easy. All I have to do is avoid those situations. It's not really that simple though. You can't avoid or escape from every difficult situation life throws at you. And it's pretty much a guarantee that unpleasant emotions will come up occasionally. In other words, you're better off scrapping that getaway plan and preparing yourself to deal with any triggers that might come up in your day-to-day life. So this next section is talking about owning your feelings, basically taking responsibility. So let's get into it. First, remind yourself that it's totally okay to feel whatever you're feeling in that moment. Sad, angry, afraid, mad. Triggers can evoke plenty of emotion, and that's normal. But before you can begin working through those emotions, you have to accept them. Denying or ignoring what you feel generally only makes it worse over time. It can help to remind yourself of the differences between the past and the present, but do so with compassion for yourself, not judgment. Say a coworker picks up your book and asks, "What are you reading?" If this makes you recall classmates who used to tease you and hide your books, you might feel anxious and annoyed and want to snatch the book away. Instead, acknowledge that while circumstances in the past may have caused pain and led you to feel that way, those circumstances aren't repeating right now. This reminder can help you take back control and actively choose another response, such as briefly summarizing the book or following up with a question about what they're reading. Physically leaving can help you avoid emotional overwhelm. If you can, excuse yourself to take a short break. This can help you avoid an instinctive reaction you might regret later. The goal here isn't to completely avoid the circumstances that triggered your emotions. You're just giving yourself a chance to cool off so you can handle the situation more productively. Once you feel more relaxed, you can return to the situation with a clearer head. Alright, this next section goes into mindfulness, being in the present moment. Mindfulness exercises. Mindfulness exercises help you learn to pay more attention to what you feel and experience in the present. Boosting mindfulness skills can help you become more aware of the emotions that come up throughout the day. Being more in tune with your feelings can make it easier to both understand what triggers them and find helpful ways to cope. Research from 2019 suggests mindfulness meditation can help improve your ability to process and regulate emotions. Other types of meditation can also help you learn to focus your awareness and find an inner calm, even when faced with difficult or unwanted feelings. That's very important to learn to be in the present moment, how to be mindful, how to think before reacting. Here's another great tip. Regularly tracking your emotions in a journal can help you recognize specific patterns, such as emotional triggers in times of greater vulnerability. Some people may need to go to the next level if you're dealing with immense amount of stress and it's really wearing on you. You may need to talk to a professional, as they bring up in this next section. Emotion regulation is a difficult skill to master for most people, and it's not always easy to identify triggers on your own. Your instinctive reactions to certain triggers can become so deeply ingrained in your behavior that you may not even realize how your reactions cause harm. If you're too close to your triggers to recognize them and address their effect on your interactions, therapy can help. Therapy provides a safe, non-judgmental space to identify triggering situations and explore potential reasons behind your triggers. A therapist can also help you practice using more productive communication strategies to express emotions in any situation. Offer guidance and support as you work to heal the source of your triggers. Okay, so that article provided us a little bit more depth on stressors and ways of managing or coping with them. So first and foremost, in that moment when a stressor is starting to trigger you, you want to be able to notice that. You want to be able to understand what's taking place so that you can make an appropriate response on how to deal with this. Some of those responses may include calming down and potentially even stepping away from a situation to a space where you can relax. Get some space from the situation, calm down, be in your own moment. You really want to be in that moment. You want to practice mindfulness and really understand what you're experiencing in that present moment. Try not to project things into the future or the past, because that's a lot of where that emotion gets triggered from. Past experiences or fear of the future. So if you can remain in that present moment and breathe through the situation almost in a meditative kind of state, then you may be able to respond a lot better. Obviously, there's certain stressors where that's not appropriate. If your life is in danger and you're being attacked, you may need to flee out of there or fight your way, as quickly as possible and not even think about mindfulness in that moment. But that's a whole nother topic. There is obviously mindfulness that goes along with the martial arts and things like that. But just as a general rule, you do want to be aware of what you're feeling and what you're experiencing so you can make an appropriate decision on how to respond. And then if you want to go a little bit more in depth into how you respond to stressors, they mention having a mood journal. Journaling when those stressors arise, how you felt in that moment, what you wanted to do, what the thoughts were, how you decided to respond. That way you can reflect on how you're responding in these moments and then make changes as you see fit so that you can have a better response in the future. And of course, if you're really dealing with things that you feel are out of your control, or you're not able to get a handle and manage your stressors effectively, you don't want to allow them to get worse and then you potentially cause harm to others or yourself. So in those situations, be sure to talk to a professional if you need that service. There's professionals out here who are trained to help people in those situations as well. So in this last article, we're going to get even more detail on effective ways of dealing with stressors. So let's check that out. The last article is titled Stress Management: How to Reduce and Relieve Stress by Lawrence Robinson. Effective stress management helps you break the hold stress has on your life so you can be happier, healthier, and more productive. The ultimate goal is a balanced life with time for work, relationships, relaxation, and fun, and the resilience to hold up under pressure and meet challenges head on. But stress management is not one size fits all. That's why it's important to experiment and find out what works best for you. The following stress management tips can help you do that. Tip 1. Identify the sources of stress in your life. Stress management starts with identifying the sources of stress in your life. This isn't as straightforward as it sounds. While it's easy to identify major stressors such as changing jobs, moving, or going through a divorce, pinpointing the sources of chronic stress can be more complicated. It's all too easy to overlook how your own thoughts, feelings, and behaviors contribute to your everyday stress levels. Sure, you may know that you're constantly worried about work deadlines, but maybe it's your procrastination rather than the actual job demands that is causing the stress. To identify what's really stressing you out, look closely at your habits, attitude, and excuses. Do you explain away stress as temporary? For example, I just have a million things going on right now, even though you can't remember the last time you took a breather? Do you define stress as an integral part of your work or home life? For example, things are always crazy around here. Or as part of your personality? For example, I have a lot of nervous energy, that's all. Until you accept responsibility for the role you play in creating or maintaining it, your stress level will remain outside your control. A stress journal can help you identify the regular stressors in your life and the way you deal with them. Each time you feel stressed, make a note of it in your journal or use a stress tracker on your phone. Keeping a daily log will enable you to see patterns and common themes. Write it down. Write down things such as what caused your stress, how you felt both physically and emotionally, how you acted in response, what you did to make yourself feel better. So again, that's bringing up the importance of journaling, trying to identify your responses to a stressor at that time and writing it down so you can reflect on it and really understand and work through what you're feeling in the moment. Tip 2. Cut out unhealthy ways of dealing with stress. Many of us feel so stressed out we resort to unhealthy and unproductive ways to cope. A lot of these unhelpful strategies can temporarily reduce stress, but in the long run, they actually cause even more damage. Here's some examples. Smoking, drinking too much, or using drugs to relax. Binging on junk or comfort food. Zoning out for hours in front of the TV or phone. withdrawing from friends, family, and social activities, sleeping too much, filling up every minute of the day to avoid facing problems, procrastinating, taking out your stress on others, for example, lashing out, angry outbursts, or physical violence. Yeah, and depending on how you deal with stress, some of these are more serious than others. If you're lashing out to the point of physical violence, you need to immediately get help. Some of these are long-term habits. A lot of people procrastinate. This can cause a lot of stress. When you wait till the last moment to do something, you're going to build up that pressure you're going to feel. So your stress level is going to rise as well. We do have to still take responsibility for managing our stressors. And when we take unhealthy habits to cope with them, it's really causing more damage to us. Let's continue on. Tip number 3, practice the 4 A's of stress management. While stress is an automatic response from your nervous system, some stressors arise at predictable times. For example, your commute to work, a meeting with your boss, or family gatherings. When handling such predictable stressors, you can either change the situation or change your reaction. When deciding which option to choose in any given scenario, it's helpful to think of the 4 A's: avoid, alter, adapt, or accept. Avoid unnecessary stress. It's not healthy to avoid a stressful situation that needs to be addressed, but you may be surprised by the number of stressors in your life that you can eliminate. Learn how to say no. Know your limits and stick to them. Whether in your personal or professional life, taking on more than you can handle is a surefire recipe for stress. Avoid people who stress you out. If someone consistently causes stress in your life, limit the amount of time you spend with that person or in the relationship. Take control of your environment. If the evening news makes you anxious, turn off the TV. If traffic makes you tense, take a longer but less traveled route. If going to the market is an unpleasant chore, do your grocery shopping online. Avoid hot button topics. If you get upset over religion or politics, cross them off your conversation list. If you repeatedly argue about the same subject with the same people, stop bringing it up or excuse yourself when it's the topic of discussion. Pare down your to-do list. Analyze your schedule, responsibilities, and daily tasks. If you got too much on your plate, distinguish between the shoulds and the musts. Drop tasks that aren't truly necessary to the bottom of the list or eliminate them entirely. Alter the situation. If you can't avoid a stressful situation, try to alter it. Often this involves changing the way you communicate and operate in your daily life. Express your feelings instead of bottling them up. If something or someone is bothering you, communicate your concerns in an open and respectful way. If you don't voice your feelings, resentment will build and the stress will increase. Be willing to compromise. When you ask someone to change their behavior, be willing to do the same. If you are both willing to bend at least a little, you'll have a good chance of finding a happy middle ground. Be more assertive. Don't take a backseat in your own life. Deal with problems head on, doing your best to anticipate and prevent them. If you got an exam to study for and your chatty roommate just got home, say up front that you only have 5 minutes to talk. Find balance. All work and no play is a recipe for burnout. Try to find a balance between your work and family life, social activities and solitary pursuits, daily responsibilities and downtime. Adapt to the stressor. If you can't change the stressor, change yourself. You can adapt to stressful situations and regain your sense of control by changing your expectations and attitude. Reframe problems. Try to view stressful situations from a more positive perspective. Rather than fuming about a traffic jam, look at it as an opportunity to pause and regroup. Listen to your favorite radio station or enjoy some alone time. Look at the big picture. Take perspective of the stressful situation. Ask yourself how important it will be in the long run. Will it matter in a month, a year? Is it really worth getting upset over? If the answer is no, focus your time and energy elsewhere. Adjust your standards. Perfectionism is a major source of avoidable stress. Stop setting yourself up for failure by demanding perfection. Set reasonable standards for yourself and others, and learn to be okay with good enough. Practice gratitude. When stress is getting you down, take a moment to reflect on all the things you appreciate in your life, including your own positive qualities and gifts. This simple strategy can help you keep things in perspective. Accept the things you can't change. Some sources of stress are unavoidable. You can't prevent or change stressors such as the death of a loved one, a serious illness, or a national recession. In such cases, the best way to cope with the stress is to accept things as they are. Acceptance may be difficult, but in the long run, it's easier than railing against a situation you can't change. Alright, so those were the 4 A's. Once again, avoid, alter, adapt, accept. You will have to identify which method is appropriate based on the stressor you're feeling in that moment and how it makes you feel. And the next tip is tip number 4. Get moving. When you're stressed, the last thing you probably feel like doing is getting up and exercising. But physical activity is a huge stress reliever, and you don't have to be an athlete or spend hours in a gym to experience the benefits. Exercise releases endorphins that make you feel good, and it can also serve as a valuable distraction from your daily worries. While you get the most benefit from regularly exercising for 30 minutes or more, it's okay to build up your fitness level gradually. Even very small activities can add up over the course of a day. The first step is to get yourself up and moving. Here are some easy ways to incorporate exercise into your daily schedule. Put on some music and dance around. Take your dog for a walk. Walk or cycle to the grocery store. Use the stairs at home or work rather than an elevator. Park your car in the farthest spot in the lot and walk the rest of the way. Pair up with an exercise partner and encourage each other as you work out. Play ping pong or an activity-based video game with your kids. Deal with stress with mindful, rhythmic exercise. While just about any form of physical activity can help burn away tension and stress, rhythmic activities are especially effective. Good choices include walking, running, swimming, dancing, cycling, tai chi, and aerobics. But whatever you choose, make sure it's something you enjoy so you're more likely to stick with it. While you're exercising, make a conscious effort to pay attention to your body and the physical and sometimes emotional sensations you experience as you're moving. Focus on coordinating your breathing with your movements, for example, or notice how the air or sunlight feels on your skin. Adding this mindfulness element will help you break out of the cycle of negative thoughts that often accompanies overwhelming stress. Connect to others. There is nothing more calming than spending quality time with another human being who makes you feel safe and understood. In fact, face-to-face interaction triggers a cascade of hormones that counteracts the body's defensive fight or flight response. It's nature's natural stress reliever. As an added bonus, it also helps stave off depression and anxiety. So make it a point to connect regularly and in person with family and friends. Tip number 6, make time for fun and relaxation. Beyond a take charge approach and a positive attitude, you can reduce stress in your life by carving out me time. Don't get so caught up in the hustle and bustle of life that you forget to take care of your own needs. Nurturing yourself is a necessity, not a luxury. If you regularly make time for fun and relaxation, you'll be in a better place to handle life's stressors. Set aside leisure time. Include rest and relaxation into your daily schedule. Don't allow other obligations to encroach. This is your time to take a break from all responsibilities and recharge your batteries. Do something you enjoy every day. Make time for leisure activities that bring you joy, whether it be stargazing, playing the piano, or working on your bike. Keep your sense of humor. This includes the ability to laugh at yourself. The act of laughing helps your body fight stress in a number of ways. Take up a relaxation practice. Relaxation techniques such as yoga, meditation, and deep breathing activates the body's relaxation response, a state of restfulness that is the opposite of the fight or flight or mobilization stress response. As you learn and practice these techniques, your stress levels will decrease and your mind and body will become calm and centered. Tip number 7 is managing your time better. Poor time management can cause a lot of stress. When you're stretched too thin and running behind, it's hard to stay calm and focused. Plus, you'll be tempted to avoid or cut back on all healthy things you should be doing to keep stress in check, like socializing and getting enough sleep. The good news, there are things you can do to achieve a healthier work-life balance. Don't overcommit yourself. Avoid scheduling things back to back or trying to fit too much into one day. All too often, we underestimate how long things will take. Prioritize tasks. Make a list of tasks you have to do and tackle them in order of importance. Do the high priority items first. If you have something particularly unpleasant or stressful to do, get it over with early. The rest of your day will be more pleasant as a result. Break projects into small steps. If a large project seems overwhelming, make a step-by-step plan. Focus on one manageable step at a time, rather than taking on everything at once. Delegate responsibility. You don't have to do it all yourself, whether at home, school, or on the job. If other people can take care of the tasks, why not let them? Let go of the desire to control or oversee every little step. You'll be letting go of unnecessary stress in the process. Tip 8. Maintain balance with a healthy lifestyle. In addition to regular exercise, there are other healthy lifestyle choices that can increase your resistance to stress. Eat a healthy diet. Well-nourished bodies are better prepared to cope with stress, so be mindful of what you eat. Start your day right with breakfast and keep your energy up and your mind clear with balanced, nutritious meals throughout the day. Reduce caffeine and sugar. The temporary highs caffeine and sugar provide often end with a crash in mood and energy. By reducing the amount of coffee, soft drinks, chocolate, and sugar snacks in your diet, you'll feel more relaxed and you'll sleep better. Avoid alcohol, cigarettes, and drugs. Self-medicating with alcohol or drugs may provide an easy escape from stress, but the relief is only temporary. Don't avoid or mask the issue at hand. Deal with problems head-on and with a clear mind. Get enough sleep. Adequate sleep fuels your mind as well as your body. Feeling tired will increase your stress because it may cause you to think irrationally. Good tips there on healthy lifestyle. I would just add, always do things in moderation. So if you're going to drink, just don't drink to excess. Caffeine, another one, moderate to a healthy level. When you're frazzled by your morning commute, stuck in a stressful meeting at work, or fried from another argument with your spouse, you may need a way to manage your stress levels right now. That's where quick stress relief comes in. The fastest way to reduce stress is by taking a deep breath and using your senses, what you see, hear, taste, and touch, or through a soothing movement. By viewing a favorite photo, smelling a specific event, listening to a favorite piece of music, tasting a piece of gum, or hugging a pet, for example, you can quickly relax and focus yourself. Of course, not everyone responds to each sensory experience in the same way. The key to quick stress relief is to experiment and discover the unique sensory experiences that work best for you. Alright, so we got a lot of great tips out of that article. Obviously, you must first and foremost understand and be able to identify your personal stressors, things that bring stress in your life. And then you can start implementing these tips on how to reduce that stress and then eliminating the unhealthy behaviors, whether that be unhealthy eating, phone addiction, procrastination, etc. Once you identify how you're responding to your stressors, then you can identify whether your responses are appropriate and how you will like to continue to respond, or if you need to make a change so that your response is better and you therefore can experience less stress. So one of my favorite ways of dealing with stress is physical activity, exercise. Personally, I love playing basketball, I love biking, and I also like weightlifting. Those are my 3 ways that I use physical exercise, and that helps me to reduce and manage stress. But as mentioned in the article, there's so many different ways of exercising, and the most important thing is to just find something that you enjoy, that brings you benefits, and just stick with it. Even dancing, some people really enjoy dancing. Of course, listening to music is a major way of dealing with stress and relaxing. Obviously, when we speak of relaxing, sometimes you have to completely just let go, have a good time, have fun. You can't always be in that mode, but there are times where you have to not be so militant and just task oriented and kind of get spontaneous and just have fun, socialize, hang out with friends and family, be around people who bring you joy. laugh. Overall, just have a good time. This is another important reason to go on vacations. Go to places you've never been before, or go to places that you know you really enjoy, whether that's the beach or that's your friend's house. Find those places, identify those areas that are important to you when it comes to managing stress, when it comes to having fun. As I mentioned earlier, procrastination is a major thing that a lot of people deal with, and it's completely controllable. We are each in control of our own time. It's all about how we choose to manage it. So if you can cut down on your procrastination, whether that's scheduling when you're going to do things or handling things right then and there when you first become aware of it, obviously that's not always possible, but the more you can start to do that and set priorities to things that you know you need to get done, then you can more effectively approach it and not feel like you're under an immense amount of pressure when you're up against the deadline. Along with exercise, you also want to be mindful of what you put in your body. If you're putting a lot of unhealthy things into your body, whether that be food or caffeine or alcohol, whatever it may be, just be mindful of what it is that you're putting in your body. At certain times, your body may need certain nutrients that it doesn't need at others. So if you're feeling certain deficiencies, you may really want to understand what type of nutrients you're taking in and change it up as you so see fit. But yeah, many great tips there. Try them out, see which ones you like, see which ones work best for you. That wraps up this episode of the Infinite Moment Podcast. And I will catch you guys next time. Y'all take it easy.